So the Hawks recently cracked a human trafficking ring in Belfast in Mpumalanga. The victims included women, men and young children. It's believed the victims have been brought into South Africa from Mozambique to work as labourers on a farm. For more on this, I'm joined by Martin Erie, the Regional Organised Crime Observatory Coordinator for Southern Africa at ENACT. Martin, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome to the programme. So I want to begin with Mpumalanga as an area for human trafficking. Most of us would associate, typically, right or wrong, human trafficking with the major urban centres of Johannesburg, Cape Town and the rest of it. But what's going on in Mpumalanga specifically?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to you and to your viewers. Yes, it's a very good question. I know human trafficking has always been associated with urban areas, but that's not the case actually, because the rural areas are actually areas where human traffickers or human victims of human trafficking go to work. They go to work in the farms, they go to work in various places, in factories, and so on and so forth. So they will not, they do rarely these days bring them to urban areas because you have a lot of police patrol, you have law enforcement all around. It's very easy to trap them down, and this makes it very difficult for the traffickers to bring them to urban areas. So the rural areas are actually the main spot now for traffickers, because the traffic victims do enslavement in these rural areas, in farms and other factories in those regions.
And on
so
the issue
some of them even serve as maid at home, so where they do chores, very unpleasant things that they are taxed to do.
And that speaks to another perhaps uneven focus on how human trafficking works and why people often are taken by these criminals, right? Because another topic that we often focus on when we talk about human trafficking is a theme around sexual abuse and sexual exploitation as the reason for the crime. But when people are taken from Mozambique allegedly to work as labourers on farms, I wonder if there's an adequate enough response, enough checking, say, from the Labour Department to see that everyone who works on a farm is there willingly and legally.
That's a very good point, which I don't think that law enforcement are up to the task, because they've been looking more around the urban areas where you have the prostitute, many of whom are actually trafficked individuals. They've been trafficked there, they've been brought from different countries, some actually from different parts of Southern Africa. Maybe to put it in context for your viewers to understand how these things they work. So you have the human trafficking for international purposes, where people are trafficked or smuggled from South Africa into other countries where they end up in Europe to do prostitution, or in other countries in the Middle East especially. They do prostitution, they serve in homes where they are enslaved like laborers, they do all sorts of chores and inhumane and degrading work that other people will not do. So those are normal. You also have the internal trafficking, which is what law enforcement officers do not often focus on. Internal trafficking is where children or even people are kidnapped from different parts of South Africa, and they're taken to other parts of South Africa to serve as slaves, or to do chores that are very, very degrading for other people to do, or even in this context to do prostitution and other dirty activities, as they normally refer to. So these are the main principal activities, or one would say types of human trafficking that we see: the internal and the external trafficking.
And what about the ratio of people who, let's say, I'll use Mozambique as an example because that's where we're told this group of 39 came from, where people leave their country of birth and come into South Africa, or let's say leave the Free State to go to Mpumalanga, for example. Do we know the ratio of people who leave knowing where they're going versus those who are duped, basically sold a false promise, only to realize on arrival that what they were told is not exactly what has brought them to the destination?
No, I think you pointed out one of the key aspects of the modus operandi of how human trafficking works. You have in some cases where the victim actually can approach the trafficker for, to help them travel to another country. We call that one smuggling, where the trafficker in this case could actually facilitate the documentation, do all sorts of things. The victim travels and that's it. The business is finished. But you have other cases where the trafficker could actually take advantage, and instead of smuggling this person to that other country, the person becomes a victim of human trafficking, where the trafficker actually convinces this individual that, no, I will take you there myself, will be able to find you a job, and so on and so forth. And that's when you run into the human trafficking ring. You also have the aspect where the traffickers go from door to door. They identify vulnerable population, mostly very, very poor people. And sometimes there could be people who have gone to school but do not have jobs. And the trafficker will convince them that, we are able to provide you jobs. In some cases, we've seen girls being trafficked that they will go and serve as models in America or in Europe or in other countries where they believe that they will earn a lot of money. The Middle East has become one of the hotspots for human trafficking today. And in Africa, let me also refer your audience to our organized crime index, which came out last year, 2021, in which we actually found that human trafficking is the biggest organized crime in Africa and also in the world. And this is because organized crime is a very, very complex industry. It involves a lot of things, even the trafficking of organs, the trafficking of children, false recruitment of children and girls, for various purposes. So it's a very huge and complex industry. And in Southern Africa, we are also suffering from this problem as the rest of Africa.
And how much worse do you think the current cost of living crisis is going to make this?
This can only make things worse because it's going to render more individuals desperate. It's going to create a pool of vulnerable population. So it's going to actually increase the pool of vulnerable population, not only in South Africa, in Southern Africa, in Africa in general, where a lot of individuals will become very, very amenable to manipulation. And this is what the traffickers do. They take advantage of these poor individuals. I don't want to put any race to it, but we've seen that in Africa, the blacks are mostly the victims, but we've also seen, actually my first encounter with traffic victims were actually from Ukraine many, many years ago. So you can also see that it's not really limited to a certain country or continent, but our situation in Africa is really, really serious, more than any other region, because of the poverty and the conditions that many people find themselves on the continent.
Martin, Eric, gets every time. Thank you.